In recent years, the global financial landscape has undergone significant transformations, especially since the 2008 financial crisis. With interest rates at virtually zero, governments have faced a dilemma: how to stimulate economic growth and increase people's purchasing power without raising taxes, which could generate social discontent and an even greater economic slowdown. The solution found by many countries has been to increase public debt, financed largely by central banks. These banks have adopted an expansive monetary policy, printing money to buy debt issued by governments. This practice, although it has helped to avoid an immediate economic collapse, carries with it serious risks. The creation of money without backing can devalue the currency, resulting in inflation. When the value of money decreases, people's purchasing power is compromised, leading to a vicious cycle that affects quality of life and consumption. We are now at a critical juncture, marking the end of a debt cycle. The big questions that emerge from this scenario are about the distribution of the newly printed money and who will benefit from this influx of capital. The government, by taking control of this distribution, becomes a central player in the economic game. This raises questions about equity and justice, since the way in which money is allocated can exacerbate existing inequalities. The dynamics between the debt cycle and the flow of money have become one of the central pillars influencing the global economy. Decisions made in this context will have long-term impacts not only on national economies, but also on international trade relations. In addition, growing concerns about the sustainability of public debt and the need for structural reforms are issues that occupy the center of attention of economists, politicians, and citizens. Against this backdrop, the future of money and credit is fraught with uncertainty. How governments and central banks navigate these issues will be critical to shaping the economy in the coming decades, impacting everything from investment to social welfare. Therefore, a deep understanding of these dynamics is essential for individuals and institutions to prepare for what lies ahead. Wealth inequality and political conflict are interconnected phenomena that permeate human history, shaping societies and governance. Since ancient times, disputes over money and power have always been catalysts for social tensions, and in this century we have seen a significant increase in economic inequality that directly impacts political dynamics. Today, wealth disparities are more evident than ever. A small elite controls a considerable fraction of global wealth, while large segments of the population struggle to meet their basic needs. This inequality is not just an economic issue. It generates a sense of injustice and frustration that translates into political conflict. People feel that their voices are being ignored, leading to increased political polarization. The clash between the left and the right, which historically dates back to divergent ideologies about the economy and society, has intensified in a context of economic crises and growing national debt. Economic crises, often caused by poor fiscal policies or the collapse of financial markets, exacerbate these divisions. As governments try to balance budgets and deal with debt, austerity measures often hit the poorest disproportionately, creating a vicious cycle of impoverishment and discontent. This social discontent can quickly escalate into protests and conflict as people mobilize for changes that promote a fairer distribution of wealth and power. Furthermore, social media and instant communication amplify these tensions. Information spreads quickly, allowing social movements to gain momentum, but also providing a platform for misinformation and extreme polarization. In many cases, ideologies are simplified into narratives that do not take into account the complexity of economic issues, exacerbating animosity between different groups. This combination of economic inequality, political polarization, and the quest for social justice creates an explosive environment that often results in social conflicts or revolutions. The distribution of money and power is at the heart of these disputes, and their mismanagement can jeopardize social stability. The struggle for a more just and equitable world is a constant throughout history, reflecting not only the search for better economic conditions, but also the need for a political system that truly represents the interests of the entire population. The future of these dynamics will depend on the ability of societies to find inclusive solutions that address the root causes of inequality, promoting constructive dialogue that takes into account the needs and aspirations of all citizens. Thus, the relationship between wealth inequality and political conflict will continue to be a crucial issue for understanding contemporary societies and for building a more stable and equitable future. The rise of a new global power, especially China, represents a turning point in the geopolitical dynamics that have shaped the world since the end of World War II. Since 1945, the United States has dominated the international scene, establishing a model of world order that emphasized economic liberalism, human rights, and democracy. This hegemony has been consolidated in several areas, including politics, culture, and, above all, economics, making the United States not only a military superpower, but also a leader in technological and financial innovation. In recent years, however, China has emerged as a formidable competitor, challenging not only the US's economic position, but also its political and cultural influence. China's economic growth in recent decades has been nothing short of extraordinary. Radical transformations, driven by economic reforms and an opening up of the market, have enabled China to become the world's second-largest economy. This rise is not only a reflection of a rise in GDP, but also of expansion in sectors such as technology, manufacturing, and international trade. The Belt and Road Initiative, for example, is a massive effort by China to establish new trade routes and strengthen its relations with developing countries, increasing its global influence. These changes have profound implications for the global order. The emergence of a more assertive China has generated tensions on a number of fronts, from trade disputes to regional security issues. What once seemed like a unipolar international order centered on the US is now characterized by a growing multipolarity, with other powers, such as the European Union and India, also beginning to assert their interests and challenge the former hegemony. International relations are being reconfigured, with alliances and rivalries constantly evolving. The trade war between the US and China, for example, is not just an economic dispute, but reflects an ideological clash over which model of governance should prevail in the world. The effects of China's rise are visible in many spheres. In economic terms, China's growth is altering global supply chains and shifting the center of gravity of international trade. China's foreign policy, which combines elements of economic diplomacy with a more assertive stance on territorial issues, such as the South China Sea, challenges the principles that, until recently, guided interaction between major powers. In this new scenario, the United States is being forced to reassess its global strategy. Attempts to contain China's influence, whether through trade tariffs or strategic alliances, reflect a defensive approach in the face of competition that cannot be ignored. This new reality requires nations to rethink their positions and seek ways of coexisting that not only acknowledge China's rise, but also explore opportunities for cooperation on global challenges such as climate change, cybersecurity, and public health. China's rise as a new global power is therefore not just an economic phenomenon, but a catalyst for a profound transformation in international relations. As the world navigates these turbulent waters, the future of the global order will depend on the ability of nations to adapt to this new reality, finding a balance that allows for peace and prosperity in an increasingly complex and interconnected environment. In the current scenario of global transformations, reflecting on personal finances becomes not only an important task, but also essential to ensure a stable future. The economic instability that permeates different regions of the world requires people to reevaluate their financial conditions and seek ways to prepare for possible crises. One of the first steps in this process is financial planning, which involves carefully calculating how long one can live on accumulated savings alone. This analysis allows each person to better understand their reserves and, consequently, how they can be used strategically to face adverse times. Furthermore, investing in long-term assets plays a crucial role in this context. Choosing investments that provide security and growth over time is essential to ensure a solid foundation in times of uncertainty. Investment diversification becomes a key principle, as spreading resources across different assets and sectors helps to mitigate risks and create a safety net. This strategy is especially important when considering the volatility that can affect certain markets. The quest for financial stability goes beyond simply accumulating assets and resources. It involves a change in mindset. In times of crisis, adaptability and financial resilience become essential. This means being willing to adjust plans and continually learn about new opportunities and market trends. Financial knowledge, therefore, is not just an advantage, but a necessity for anyone who wants to navigate safely in an ever-changing world. Finally, The interconnection between the personal economy and the global economy cannot be ignored. Fluctuations in local and international economies have a direct impact on the financial life of each individual. Therefore, it is essential to adopt a strategic approach that considers not only immediate needs, but also future trends that may influence financial stability. Ensuring security in times of uncertainty is a challenge that requires careful planning, flexibility, and a long-term vision. With these tools, it is possible to build a more secure and resilient future.